So I just got this mid-century looking dresser from the thrift store. It's got some kind of heavy film on it. I'm not sure what kind of paint it is. It looks like some kind of oil-based paint or stain that didn't really go as planned. I think the original maker, I'm not sure, but I think it says Barnett Furniture. So I'm not too familiar with them as much as I am Drexel and other companies like Bassett and uh, companies like that. But I've heard of them before, so also taking a look at it, it is definitely looks like a solid wood piece. Um, it's got some kind of veneer on it, and I'm kind of excited to figure out what kind it is because with this bad stain or paint job covering it up, it was hard for. So I've sanded the first drawer front down, and kind of like I had thought, it's got a really pretty veneer underneath it. It's not as hard of a coating as I thought it was going to be. Um, it's pretty thin, and I was able to sand through it with like 180 grit sandpaper. But I don't really want to damage the veneer. So what I'm probably going to do is strip this piece of furniture with stripper, working in sections a little bit every day. And probably over the course of a couple evenings, I'll be able to get the whole piece stripped down to bare wood. Typically, I don't do this on my process for refinishing furniture if it's just a normal flip, but with this being such a high-end piece in its original state, I'm gonna do that. And I think that it's gonna be well worth the time to see it. And there probably will be a little bit of paint on it, but probably just on the sides, and the top and the drawer faces will be wood, and probably the base too. But looking at this, all of the drawers seem to work pretty well. There's that stain on the inside of them, which is everywhere. I'm gonna have to figure out a way to get that off. Um, but there is an issue right here with this drawer slide. It's pretty gnarled, looks like kind of chewed up. But I have these Sapile drawer slides right here that are a similar size, and I'm gonna replace them. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna plane this piece down to where it is the same. We'll plane this piece down on the bottom, not on the dovetailed side, obviously, to where it's the same height as this piece right here. And obviously having a thicker drawer slide would be better for stability and for strength, but just in the purposes of what I'm doing here, it's going to be very hard to find a slide that will match these. And so I'll probably thin this out some. And so this is the other receiving piece for the dovetail drawer slide. And what I'm going to do is cut it down to match this right here and take out this metal slide and put it in here. It's not going to be the exact same height and the exact same dimensions as the original one was, but it's going to be close enough for what's going on here, and it's going to be a lot better fix than what was previously done. So here's a stripper on the top. I just use citrus strip, the regular formula, and it's ready to come off. You can see the bare wood there. It's almost to the point here where it's going to start drying up soon. So it's good to go ahead and start stripping it, because if you leave it too long and it dries on here, you're going to end up with a mess. And if you need to strip a section of it first and then reapply it, that's probably the better thing to do than to let it dry. Now, even if you're using citrus strip, you can still use quick strips after wash, but it's a messy process and it will remove dried stripper. All right, so I've got some veneer here, and it really does not match it well, but it will blend in better than a piece of Bondo. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna line up barely as small of a piece as I can, just a sliver right there. And I'm just gonna trace the outside of it with my knife. Well, I took the plywood with it. I mean the layer of wood with it underneath, and this veneer that I have is a little bit thinner. So a little bit of wood filler is probably going to be needed. I'm not too concerned with the elevation in the back of it. You know, if it's at a little bit of an angle, that's fine. It's just where it meets at up front and center. On the edges, I want it to be the same height. So I'll just take this piece of veneer, kind of press it into the wood filler to get it to where I want it to be. I'm not the veneer repair expert for sure. I learned a lot from channels like Dash and Design, but they're much better at it than I am. But I try. All right, one filler's good to go. I'm just using CA glue instead of wood glue. Use a tiny bit of filler and gonna stain it with a marker. The filler, anyway. This veneer is definitely darker, so I'm gonna try apply a little bit of gel stain to it to make it somewhat less noticeable. But it's not my favorite way for veneer repair.
So I'm just using Kim Aqua in this clip. I decided just to spray the outsides of the handles on the drawers and some other little details on the base, which you'll see in the next clip. And really, I just wanted to add a little bit of lacquer. I didn't want to prime this piece actually because I wanted to use something that could be applied straight to the wood. With it being an antique piece, I know that there's a potential of it for it being refinished in the future. And I didn't want to have like layers of primer and just other junk on top of it. I figured it'd just be easier to use one simple thing. And I kind of just suffered through it with a little bit of tan and bleed and just spot primed with a shellac based primer with a brush and kind of dabbed it in areas where I catch it would would bleed at. But I mean, obviously that's a very risky thing to do on a large surface, but on very small spots, I'm not really that worried about it.
So now I'm going to be applying the finish, and I'm just using feed and wax, you know, easily removed if it needs to be, or easily patched. That's a good thing. And yeah, that's really it. I put the drawer pulls on. As you can see, they're just little brass knobs. Wasn't anything complicated to that. There were already holes there for it, so I just used those. Just going to be careful to not get this on the fresh lacquer. I'm going to try to work kind of clean with it and not So I guess now, like while I'm doing this, would be a good time to talk about some things that with this drawer. For instance, you know, if you have an antique drawer and you want to repair it, the drawers aren't working very well. Where can you get slides like that? Well, Rockler sells them.
So I ended up altering the design of this base because the other one had a lot of issues with it. And what I did was I put a strip right here just to kind of fur it in. And I attached it to here. Well, I mean, actually to here, because this is the solid piece that was attached through a mortise and tenon joint to the side of the dresser. And that's what I used to attach these little these brass legs. And yeah, that's just what I ended up going with. The other base was too torn apart. Here's the finished dresser. And it came out good. I'm glad I got to restore a antique that was a piece of history in Louisiana.